Okay. Okay, good afternoon, everyone. Thank you for joining today's board meeting, which is on Thursday, May 18, 2023. This public meeting of the Hope Community Public Charter School Board is now called to order. We will now call the roll to determine if we have quorum. Anissa Bailey.
Present.
Tarifa Balagon.
Present.
Allison Barr.
Here.
Here, Eric Johnson.
Mr. Johnson, can you, if you're present?
I am present.
Thank you. And is Lorraine Oyotobo here?
No.
No, okay. Neha Patel?
No.
No, okay, all right. Ms. Allen isn't here. A quorum has been determined and we will now proceed with the business portion of the meeting. We have an agenda to review. I would like to ask for a motion to approve today's agenda with the caveat that we may need to change the order around just a little bit.
Hi, it's Sharifa. I move to approve the agenda for Thursday, May 18th with the caveat that we might change the order a bit.
Thank you.
Second.
Carrie. Oh, sorry, Carrie, were we able to add the lock approval to the agenda?
Yes.
The approval of the, thank you.
Mhm.
Yeah. Yes. So it's the approval for the locksmiths to replace the lock. So we'll share that invoice with you today.
Okay, great. Thank you. Do I have someone to second the motion for today's to approve the agenda for today?
Second.
Thank you. All in favor, say aye.
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 Any nays or abstentions? No, the agenda is approved. And board members, we also have the board minutes to review from March 16th, 2023 and May 4th, 2023. Are there any corrections? Nope, I don't have any. May I have a motion to approve the minutes from the March 16th and May 4th meetings?
This is Allison. I motion to approve the meeting minutes from the March 16th meeting.
May I have someone second the motion?
It's Sharifa. I second the motion.
Thank you. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. It
Yeah.
was also the May 4th minutes as well.
Hello? Hello, Sasha Walker calling for Sabrina Cooley. How can I help?
Christina, we did both at the same time.
I'm sorry, Allison had just said March 16th only, so.
Oh, okay. Sorry, okay.
Want me to restate the motion?
Yes, let's restate it, yes.
To approve the minutes for both the March 16th and May 4th meetings.
Oh, perfect, thank you, Allison. Any nays or abstentions?
But I second the motion.
Thank you. I thought you did it for, anyway, let's keep it moving. Any nays or abstentions? No, the minutes we approved for March 16th and May 4th, 2023 are approved and will be online. Minutes from this meeting will be approved in the June meeting. All recordings are available 24 to 48 hours after approval, and these actions are based on the Opens Meeting Act. There are a few things to get through on today's agenda. Melissa is also in an airport, so I would like to, if we could move the action items to our first, so we can handle that first, the approvals, and then after that, we can jump into the financial report.
Absolutely. And Christina, we were going to add, it's kind of what I brought up before. We were going to add an item for the locks, for all the lock replacement. We got a new quote that was above the threshold today. So I spoke to Carrie, so we we're going to add that in. Do we need anything different to do because it's not on current new business?
There needs to be an approval to amend the agenda and add that in.
Okay.
I thought we just did that, no?
I don't think we did an amendment. I think we just approved it and we're able to make an adjustment, but I think we have to actually add that item in. I'm sorry, Carrie. Yeah.
Okay, all right, so I would like to make a motion to amend the agenda to add the lock approval for the school. May I have a motion to approve this addition to the agenda?
Hi, it's Sharifa. I move to approve the addition to the agenda.
Second.
I second the motion.
Thank you. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
I,
Thank you. Any nays or abstentions? Nope. It's the adjustment to the agenda has been approved. Okay. Melissa, are you
Sure.
leading that?
Absolutely.
Okay.
Absolutely. Yeah. So thank you, everybody. And I apologize. We have been working on getting all the doors updated locks. We had some locks that have gotten out that are not secure. We have multiple keys out. So we have gotten a couple different quotes, and the one that is truly a secure system has a solenoid lock. It has a master key. It has keys for teachers who will access the bathroom and only the teacher's lounge in their room only. So it's really a much more secure situation, and people are not, at least they're supposed to not be able to make copies of the key. So I'm going to actually turn over to Tamiko. She has a little more information, and Joshua, if we can allow him to share his screen, he has the quote for you.
Hi, good evening, everyone. Yes, hello, I'm sorry.
Yep, I can hear you.
I'm sorry. Yes, just to piggyback on what Melissa just said, that is correct. We were able to get a better quote, and this is a more secure option. And it would will save us money in the long run. So it's a good long-term plan, so we don't have to keep switching out the locks.
And Christina, can Joshua share his screen so you can see the quote, please?
Yes, just one moment. Joshua, you can share.
Can everyone see my screen?
Yes. So this is for the main doors. What all the class, is it all the classroom? Like every lock in the building is getting replaced, or like
Yes,
yeah,
it's
okay.
every lock in the building, yes.
And
Okay.
I will share that Tamiko actually was able to negotiate. It started out at 17,000 and was able to work it out to where now it's at 15,288. So she was able to work her magic with these individuals to make this work for us.
Okay, and this also comes with a maintenance part to the agreement as well, in case anything happens, or is that something separate?
The maintenance will be separate, but from the information that I received from Locksmith, that we should be good with this option, and we should not have to replace the keys moving forward. So,
Who's gonna have the keys? You, Tamiko, and the principal?
Yes, so we will have like the super master key
Mm-hmm.
to all of the rooms. And then the teachers will have a key just for their room to access all of the restrooms into the staff lounge only.
Okay, is there other rooms that need to be locked? Like is the lab or the computer room lab, or like are there other rooms that will also have special keys or anything like
Uh,
that?
Yes, and those keys will be stored in a lockbox and put away.
Okay, and we're gonna have a signing system of some kind in case
Yes.
people leave or say, "Well, I lost my key," kind of thing.
Yes, and there will be a key agreement, so they will sign for the keys and will have to return those keys upon exiting the school.
Okay, all right. Okay. Any questions from board members? Or anything?
Sorry about that. I was on mute still. It was loud in here. I think that's everything. Just we were just asking for the approval of $15,288 to replace all the locks throughout the building and just have a more secure setup with keys that we cannot make copies of, so that there are not multiples floating out and about without special service. So
Right, and we have the funds for this. Eva, is this run up the chain to Eva yet, or Javi, or someone else?
yep, I actually ran it past Eva, and I'll let her speak to that.
Eva's not on.
Is Javi on?
Javi is not on either. He had a family emergency.
Okay, all right, well,
Carlo, are you able
Sorry.
to help out on this one?
Carrie, this is Dan. I can step in on this one. We do have
Security announcement, please.
we do have funds available in the budget, particularly in the maintenance repair section for this.
okay, perfect. Thanks, Dan.
Sure.
Nice to see you. Okay, if there are no other questions from board members, Allison, anything? No, okay, all right, let's keep it moving. I'd like to make a motion to approve the locksmith service. I can't see the amount, the amount of $15,288. Is that what it is?
That's correct.
Oh, and this will be installed immediately, correct?
Yes, so once we have the approval, I will sign the invoice and it takes 4 days for them to order all the locks.
Okay, perfect.
Yes.
Thank you.
Yeah.
May I have someone make a motion to approve?
So moved.
Thank you. May I have someone second?
Second.
Who's second? Is that Anissa?
It was Allison.
Oh, sorry, Allison. Okay, thank you. All in favor, say aye.
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 Any nays or abstentions? Nope. Services for locksmith has been approved. Okay. Chromebook purchase. I think we had to table this from our last meeting because the renewal expired. Is that correct?
Yes, Ms. Smith, yes. The quote was expired, so I had to get a new quote.
Mhm.
And I'm back here again for the approval of the 85 Chromebook purchase.
Did they change the price or it was just a date thing?
It's just a date thing.
Okay.
There's no change in the price.
Okay, and I know we did some Chromebooks, what, last year, I think it was? So,
Yes. So last year, we actually purchased 60 Chromebooks as a part of the SOAR program. And then we purchased like 33 Chromebooks. We only purchased 33 Chromebooks in the beginning of June. So we only purchased like 93 Chromebooks last year. And right now we have a total Chromebooks of like 177 on hand, out of which we have like 11 are broken, and we just kept them aside like to use for parts. And we have 166 in working condition. And now we are requesting 85, so that 38 of those would be used to cover one-to-one, because we have a total enrollment of 204 students. And the 47 we wanted to use as a buffer, like to swap out devices for broken devices and also for testing. And also, I just wanted to mention the new vendor that we are working with right now has been extremely helpful in kind of inventorying all the Chromebooks. And right now we do have a platform called Asset Tiger, where we inventory all of our technology equipment into that portal. And every device that's given out is being checked in and checked out using that portal.
Okay, okay. Well, that's a nice change. I think there was an error on your purchase. It said 6/10/2023, so it should be 22.
Yes.
Okay.
Sorry about that.
And what about the broken ones? Can those be fixed, or Chromebooks are kind of, when they're done, they're done?
No, I mean, some of them, like the screen was broken or like the keypad was broken. So we kind of usually keep them aside, and we kind of use them like for parts. Like if another Chromebook keyboard is missing, we usually like pull out the keys from the broken device and like replace them with for the working Chromebooks.
Okay, and this vendor is only doing just Chromebooks. They don't do any kind of IT services outside of just providing the Chromebooks, or what do they do?
No, the vendor that I secured the code from is the same IT vendor that actually provides IT services on the campus.
How many days are they there?
Right now, they're only doing like half a day. So for next year, we are actually requesting them to do one whole day, and they're still working on the agreement for the next year, and I'll have it ready for the next board meeting.
But one day on site, and then they're available remotely for issues?
Yes, yes. And Tamiko can speak more to it. Tamiko, do you want to add any other comments regarding the vendor? And
can you say which of the vendors of the quotes you're providing we're going with? I may have missed it. I'm sorry if you said that.
it's the first one. It's called Dynamic Network Solutions. Coach 1, DNS. They actually provide like with a 3-year accidental damage warranty as well. So it comes out to $32,000 and $583.
And so are we gonna have, and you said in the vendor also can handle inventory control on the devices?
Yes.
Do we have a computer lab, or how is this distributed? Just in the classroom as needed, or do kids go to like computer class, and then especially with the STEAM curriculum, like, is there anything different that we need to take in consideration?
I can speak to that, Ms. Smith.
Okay.
So what's going to happen? We're going to have the acceptance use form. We're going to have to sign form. Each teacher will be given a cot that they have to sign for, which is going to have serial numbers of each laptop, and they can be signed to each individual student. That's for the cards. That's for the device as an individual in the room. And then we're going to have for our STEAM lab, we'll have some devices as well with it. The STEAM teacher will stay in the room. It's going to be locked, as of course. And that'll be assigned to that teacher with serial numbers as well, that he will sign for the beginning of the year, and then will sign at the end of the year. So it's going to be accountability for everyone throughout the building.
Okay, and the extras will cover all of this. The extras plus the old ones covers all the bases, right?
Yes, ma'am. I'm making a full 1-to-1 school.
Yes.
Oh, okay. All right. So, okay. Anything else I should know about the IT piece? Any other issues with IT in general that we should be aware of?
I think I'm going to bring it up in next board meeting. Right now, we don't have a lot of issues, but the network equipment is, we need to like replace the network equipment. We do have like some dollars left in the E-rate funding. That's a project that we are planning to do in next summer, because we already passed the deadline for this year, but we have to upgrade the network equipment for the following year.
Okay.
But we do have like around $34,000 in E-rate funding that we can use for these network equipment purchases.
And that money will be available for next summer?
Oh yeah, it is available until 2025 of summer.
Okay.
We have 2 more years to use that.
Okay. All right, okay. Any other questions for any other board members? No, okay. I would like to ask for a motion to approve the student Chromebook purchase of how much? $32,583.65. May I have a motion to approve?
A motion to approve the purchase of the Chromebooks for $32,583.65.
And this is Anissa. I second the motion.
Thank you, Anissa. All in favor, say aye.
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 Aye. Any nays or abstentions? No. Chromebook purchase is approved. Okay. And then we have, next we have a contract for renewal agreement for meal service.
Hi, everyone. For those of you I haven't met yet, my name is Paul Farrington. I handle culinary for Phalen Academy, and I've been working through this culinary bid. If you just want to scroll down a little bit to the price comparison, I'm going to walk through the top. I hate being read to, so I'm not going to read word for word, but there's a more detailed narrative for the board review is attached. So where we stand with our current vendor, the market in DC is pretty tight as far as food vendors go. So our current vendor has offered that they'd like to renew with the school for the next academic year. Current climate is there's really only 2 vendors in the DC area who are picking up new clients. Our current Whitson's and then Genuine Foods. Right now, just having done the market research, Genuine Foods is being very selective on their bids that they pick up. And I don't believe that we would be competitive in rebidding for a culinary contract. So I do believe it's in the best interest, because in situations where you go out and rebid like this, the rebidding process may open you up to increased financial costs from the vendors, versus on a contract renewal, they're set like rates and percentages that they can't exceed, in even due to like inflation and supply chain pieces. So here's my just quick breakdown of on the left, you're going to see projected costs for the next year. This is based off of our historic numbers for orders from the past school year with the vendor. On the right-hand side column, you're going to see the projected increase or reimbursement. So our estimated revenue out of the culinary program is going to be right around that. We'll call it $209,700. Our cost is going to be projected right around that $208,500. So if we renew at the current rate, we're going to look at a projected kind of culinary growth of about $1,200, which really helps give you the sign that's a healthy culinary program. You don't want to have too much going in, and you don't want to be in the red. If you want to scroll down just a little bit to those bottom figures, you're going to see annual meal, cost per meal under the contract renewal. And for breakfast and lunch, are projected, because they haven't released the numbers there, is on the right-hand side. So again, it puts us in a really good projected fiscal place to renew with the current vendor. Any questions or concerns?
Are you comfortable with what they offer to the kids?
I am. I've been working with Ms. Tamiko and Mr. Ray. There's some areas where I think we could improve with some more communication with Whitson's. But I do believe, all things considered, that the product they're providing is nutritious. I think there's room for improvement on like taste and flavor pieces, but when you're in child nutrition, you can't, it's that rising graph. What's the healthiest is not always the tastiest at the end of the day.
I mean, so what, Dan, Dan, I'm not sure, I don't know a whole lot about schools, meal services, but is this kind of in line with what you see with other schools, or what's your take on this?
Yes, it is. Yeah, and I think it would be in line with the budget that we're going to be talking about shortly. So no concerns on my end.
Okay, all right, okay. What kind of waste do we have with food right now? I mean, are kids eating this, or I mean, I'm just curious.
They are eating it. Our participation rate is generally in line. You know, it's one of those with any culinary program. You never get 100% participation from kids because they're going to bring lunch from home. So even though everyone is qualified for a free lunch, I'll put it this way: inside of like the Phalen network, I've seen schools with lower participation than what we currently have. So I'm happy. I think we have a healthy participation percentage, and like I said, with the incomes projected, the numbers there, that's based off of like historic numbers. It's not just made up.
Anything from principal or Ms. Savoy on any comments before we move on?
Yes, just to add, they have actually sent some good choices, and the kids have actually asked for seconds of a lot of the recent meals that they actually sent out. Since we actually mentioned to them that, you know, some of the choices that the kids would prefer to have. So we are starting to see a change in a lot of those meal items.
Okay, well, that's good that there's flexibility in terms of, you know, making changes as we go along. Okay.
Yes.
Any questions from the board members? No, okay. I would like to ask for a motion to approve the contract renewal agreement for meal services with Whitson's Culinary Group.
Hi, it's
Right, go ahead.
It's Sharifa. I move to approve the renewal of the contract with the food services vendor.
Thank you. May I have someone second the motion?
Second.
Thank you. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Aye. Any nays or abstentions? Nope. The meal service renewal is approved. All right. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. Just to keep things moving along, we're going to move to the financial report and the FY24 budget. Dan, I'm assuming that's all yours.
Yes. Christina, what's easier? To scroll down. Oh, this is easier. Okay. Thank you all. Let's go ahead. We'll start right through this. We've got 6 slides to go through. The point of this is we do not need to necessarily approve the budget if anyone would like to decide, but if so choosing, we can go ahead and approve it. We just have to have a final approved budget to the PCSB by roughly the end of June. So we've got on the first slide, we are proposing approximately a break-even budget for next year. That compares to our current net income projection of negative $385,000 for this current fiscal year. This budget is proposing to increase the number of students by 29 students, while for the most part maintaining our cost structure. It's adding effectively adding one more classroom teacher, but the majority of the costs are remaining the same. One thing for everyone to keep in mind is thinking about Hope Community's financial picture, sort of always what we're kind of operating within, is that the school has a very large fixed cost in our building lease, and the overwhelming majority of our revenue is variable based upon the number of students. And currently we are not operating at optimal capacity in that building. We have not been for quite a number of years. And so the result of that is that our rent expense, our lease, is just a bit over $1.6 million. And the per pupil facilities allowance the school receives is just a little over $800,000. So if you think of that delta, that 1.6 million expense versus $800,000 of revenue that's coming in, that's supposed to, in most instances, cover our rent expense, that is something that we are working against in order to try to come up with a balanced budget. And so if you're wondering where that money comes from, it comes from having to dip into effectively into program dollars to be able to fund our lease expense. Even though we only have a break-even budget for next year, we continue to maintain a healthy cash balance. We're projected to have just a bit over $3 million, which is going to represent 138 days of cash on hand. So that projection is for June 30th, 2024. 90 plus days is typically assumed to be a strong position. The PCSB thinks of 60 days is the target that they like to set for everybody. If we move down to the next slide to revenue overview, I've got these following slides just provide a little bit more detail into the top line that I showed you on that first one. Federal revenue for next year represents a higher percentage of total revenue than typically would have. That is because of the continued availability of all of those ESSER funds. In most years, state and local revenue, which is really short for per pupil revenue, it's 90% plus of total revenue. You could see that for next year, almost a third of our revenue is coming from federal revenue, which in dollar terms is $1.2 million. This is one-time revenue, which means that in future years, we're either going to have to compensate for it going away, either with higher enrollment, or we're going to have to reduce total expenses. It's not something we have to deal with this year, but it's something that everyone's well aware of that we'll have to come up with strategies in the future years. And the other caveat that I have on the revenue side is we are not assuming any additional revenue related to the funding from DCPS's recent WTU contract. Up until just yesterday, there was huge uncertainty around all these funds where basically we didn't even really know how to calculate how much it was going to be, what it was going to cover, when we were going to get it, how we were going to get it. And so we've taken the conservative approach of not assuming that revenue in there and then not assuming kind of any comparable expenses. The DC Council just put forth more of their amended information as to how we'll be able to access those funds. We're going to be quickly taking a look, kind of figuring those out. But the net result should only be a improvement to this budget. It should not end up decreasing it. These funds really are going to only be able to be used for salaries. So there's likely a little flexibility. We just need to figure that out a little bit and how we're going to account for that. If we could move on the expenses. I mentioned before about how we were keeping the cost structure roughly the same. Again, we are essentially have the same staffing structure, one additional classroom teacher that is due to that additional 29 students. We have one large expenditure that we will be having that's different from this current year or this past year is that we're going to be adopting a new STEAM curriculum, utilizing TinkerWorks curriculum. And you can see in there, it's comprehensive STEAM program, and then also purchasing VEX robotics. And so this is all factored into, if you see the direct student expense category, so not a huge area of our budget, but it is something new. And then I already mentioned to you before about all the information around the rent, and so you can see that listed there as well. If we could then move, we've got a couple, these next two slides are ones might be of interest to people on the board. This shows a comparison of other charter schools in the district of how they are allocating their revenue, their funds relative to where Hope is. And so you can see Hope is represented with that dark circle. And then you can see the range of where schools fall. We do on the back end, EdOps does some calculations to try to normalized as much as possible. So we're not just, so if like, say for instance, a school has a high sped population, we're trying to normalize that. And so we make it so we're trying to do is apples to apples. There's a few things that I want everyone to see is, of course, if you go down to that rent row, you can see rent. We are that dark circle and we are way outside the norm than other schools. And so that just sort of drives home the point of what I was talking about of how much of our expense this takes up. The others, my biggest takeaway there is we're about in the middle. You know, we look to be pretty darn close to the median. So we are running roughly a comparable program there. And Christine, if you won't mind going to the next one, which is a few more of the expense categories. Again, you can see we're pretty much right around in the median, but a few things to point out is the office and business expense. That actually includes the management fee for Phalen. It's required by the PCSB for us to put it in that category. And so in a lot of ways, you could think of that as being a substitute, a proxy for salaries and staffing expense. And so that's just why we're there, because the most schools aren't going to have a management fee agreement in there. And so that's why we kind of tip over. But we look to be, if you look, we're a little bit over the median on direct student expense, which is great. It means we're putting funds into the program. And then also the other thing to note is that in the interest line is hope doesn't show up. That's because we're a debt-free school. We haven't had to take on debt. And so nothing there. And so that gives us some nice flexibility as well. And that is essentially it. I'm happy to take any questions, but sort of what we're putting in front of the board is this is something it's been worked on in partnership with PLA, in partnership with school leadership. It's been talked through with the finance committee of the board. And so we're presenting this, the vote to be taken would be whether to approve this roughly break-even budget for the next fiscal year.
Carrie, you're on mute.
Sorry about that. Thanks, Dan. Appreciate the proposal. Allison, anything to add?
I think Dan covered it really well. The finance committee has looked at the budget in the last 2 meetings, I believe. So we had some good discussions. And as Dan said, we're, obviously the rent piece is something we have to continue to watch. And then also the decrease in ESSER funds as we get through this fiscal year, but nothing else to add.
Okay. And the ESSER funds end at the end of the next school year?
Yeah, they're scheduled to expire September 30th of 2025. So we'll probably get like the first quarter of the not for this budget, but the next budget we discussed. And that, of course, this will be not a unique problem to Hope community. Everybody is thinking about what this looks like. So we'll be paying a lot of attention.
And have we earmarked how to spend it, or where are we with that? I mean,
yes. So we did factor in this budget. It does fund some staff positions, but also we are trying to allocate it for more one-time costs so that we don't have as much of this funding cliff. But I think the hope is that we can continue to push enrollment up. And I think if we can continue to push student enrollment up, that is going to solve a lot of the issues. And then we'll be able to replace the loss of federal revenue with additional per pupil revenue coming through. That's going to be the biggest driving force for us.
Carrie, this is what I was talking about in our last meeting, where I was concerned about voting on expenses without understanding the budget, because there are some things I might not have been as comfortable with when we voted for them if I'd have known that we're going to spend everything that we have. But if that's what we need to do, I'm okay with that. But I think we got to think through our budgeting process. And when we approve expenditures going forward, we should understand the impact on the budget before we improve them. I don't like the idea of us improving expenditures and then the next meeting, we understand the impact on the budget. I think that should be, we should do both of those things at the same time. I'm not gonna X anything that we're doing right now, but I just want us to think about that going forward as something to consider.
Thanks, Eric. Some of the things that were approved the last time. So typically some of these things are actually discussed or brought up in the Finance Committee meeting. There's an opportunity to ask questions there, or one-off questions typically offline about affordability for anything that we're doing. So they're not just willy-nilly requests that we, at least that I see for the first time on these calls. So again, you know, Eva's always involved, Melissa, and they come up in our other calls as well. So we don't approve, we're not approving anything that we know we can't afford. Let's just say that. But some of the approvals are just, some of the approvals that we've gone through are, quite frankly, some of them are necessary to get us to where we need to be. There's you know, we had some safety issues earlier this year. You know, there's some other things that we'll probably discuss in closed session, or I can, you know, that's why we need the locks changed on the school. So there's some things, just some of it is just getting up to code, getting to a standard of where we should be. And this is some of it is technically just safety as well. So, but rest assured, we discuss things before we bring them to a vote here. So, and I've also attended Allison's on the Finance Committee. She's the chair. She attends all the meetings on Tuesdays. And I usually join them as well. So, so you guys are also welcome to attend, but we do try to, we put Dan through the ringer typically on those calls, more so than we would do now, so. Yeah. You know, we talked extensively about this budget and kind of the break-even approach. We have been discussing the ESSER funds coming to an end eventually. And the three things I think we've talked about in the past are, you know, enrollment, what is that, where will that take us? The end of the ESSER funds and the real estate issue that doesn't seem to want to go away. Yeah, those are the three things I've taken away from previous conversations we've had with the Finance Committee. We're keeping an eye on.
I wonder if it might be helpful to do a quick, just one pager of the internal controls within the school in between DANU and then the PLA team around what is the process or the flow of before something gets to either the Finance Committee or the board for approval. What are Phalen and EdOps doing around some of those decisions? The quotes and legal review, that might just be helpful. Quick summary for the board, and especially as we bring new board members on.
I like it. I can circle up with Eva on that one.
Yep, that'd be great. Thanks, Dan.
Are there any other questions from board members? Anything worrisome, troublesome, or just general questions may want to ask? I am okay with moving forward to put this to vote today, but if there's any concerns, I'd rather know now. We have to get this in by June, so we have more time. So if you want us some time to think about it or discuss in a different forum, board members, please let me know. No? Okay. All right, well, let's go. Let's put it to vote. I would like to ask for a motion to approve the FY24 budget as presented by Dan Phalen, the head of EdOps.
So moved.
May I have someone to second the motion?
This is Anissa, I second the motion.
Okay, thank you. All in favor, say aye.
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 Aye. And any nays or abstentions? Nope, the budget for FY 24 has been approved. Thanks, Dan.
You then.
Oh, I did miss something on approvals.
The board calendar.
The board calendar. Sorry about that. Okay, I don't have any issues with the dates. There are the third Thursday of every month. I don't think we, except for December and April. December because it's the holidays, and April is typically around spring break season, so we'll adjust accordingly. It's the same schedule we've been keeping. Any questions about it? Any issues? It's at 5:30. Does 5:30 work for everyone typically? Yeah.
I mean, I think 5:30 is a good time, Carrie. I mean, are we considering moving from the virtual meetings to the in-person meetings?
Yeah, I would like to probably have more of a mix next school year. And that way we can have, you know, these meetings are supposed to be open and parents can attend also. So I think we should be, I think we have some time before we designate which ones are, but I think we should probably have a few of them that are on campus. Yeah.
Okay, that works for me.
Mm-hmm. Any other questions? Anyone, concerns? No? Okay, let's keep it moving. So may I have a motion to approve the 23-24 board meeting calendar?
This is Anissa, I move to approve the 23-24 board calendar.
Thank you, Anissa. May I have someone to second it?
Second.
Thank you, Eric. And all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any nays or abstentions? No. The calendar for 23-24 is approved. All right, perfect. Okay. Let's get into, well, since we're talking about numbers, Eric, I think we have a little time before you board, I guess. Can we talk about enrollment and where we are? Can we jump into that category?
We absolutely can.
Ask me to talk.
Good afternoon, everyone. For those who I have not met previously, my name is Tiffany Walter, and I serve as the National Director for Scholar Enrollment. I am speaking on behalf of PLA in the absence of Mr. Javi Dimas, who had a family emergency. Before we get into our numbers, I did want to formally introduce you all to a new Hope family member, Mr. Barrington Tolliver. Mr. Tolliver, if you would like to introduce yourself. Mr. Tolliver has joined the Hope family as our new student enrollment coordinator, and I wanted to formally give him the opportunity to introduce himself. Mr. Tolliver?
Yes, thank you, Ms. Walter. Good evening, everyone. Thank you all for giving me the opportunity to be a part of this board meeting. I just wanted to say I'm looking forward to working or attending the board meetings, but ultimately making sure that we have students engaged in the learning and lesson at the school. So I've hit the ground running. My first day on board was this past Monday. So far, I've sent out a welcome letter to parents to connect with them, letting them know that we continue to make sure that we educate students' hearts and minds daily throughout the school year, but also I've had the opportunity to meet with parents, students, as well as teachers to make sure we understand that all of us together help with the enrollment. the last thing I would like to add is that I've had the opportunity to set some dates to connect with parents. I think it's great to connect with parents to have them understand the importance of re-enrollment, but also looking forward to our STEAM program at the school, which is a dynamic program that we've added to our school, which is an addition. So I look forward to continuing being a part of the meetings and also being able to bring in the numbers or to make sure we bring in some additional scholars to the school. Thank you all so much.
Well, thank you, Mr. Tolliver, and welcome. Nice to have you on board.
Thank you, Mr. Tolliver. So as you all should be able to see the screen and the information that is presented, currently we have an enrollment, we have total enrollment of 204 scholars. And out of those 204 scholars, again, we are looking to determine how many of those scholars will be returning, which is where you see the year-to-date intent to return. 190 families or scholars were made outreach to. However, we know that that number is not the definitive number for the number of scholars that are returning, because and it's probably closer to about 160 scholars, because we do know that we have 8th graders that are not going to be returning. And there are some scholars that will be shifting out due to withdrawals. So that number is going to be slightly lower, but 190 family members were reached out relative to our intent to return. Currently, where you see the year-to-date applications, it says 182, but in fact, that number is a little bit higher. When we pulled the data points from My School DC, which is your lottery system, we determined that in the lottery, 101 families selected that they are interested in Hope, and that was for the former lottery announcement. And then during the post lottery announcement, an additional 103 families selected Hope as a choice. So in totality, that is 203 potential new scholars for Hope. We are super excited to see that information. Again, our strategy at this point, along with Mr. Tolliver and Mr. Owens, is to make outreach immediately to all of those 203 scholars. Again, we want to make sure that those scholars actually decide to attend Hope. So that is really our main priority. So connecting with 100% of those applicants. There will be some open house events that will be happening, as Mr. Tolliver already stated. We have already announced some upcoming events, and they have actually sent out via Parent Square all of their upcoming opportunities for parents to connect. So that information was sent out on yesterday with a listing of dates for parents to come out. Mr. Tolliver has also added a check-in. He has an enrollment table where he actually has started greeting families both at drop-off in the morning and pick up in the afternoon, to allow families to, number one, get to know who he is, but also to allow them to bring in any documentation or verifying their enrollment. So that is already happening. We do have some upcoming open house or open campus days. He is already looking forward to planning a carnival over the summer, or more, or we would say a back to school event in the summer. And then, of course, we are going to continue to recruit, to market, and to campaign our STEAM program throughout the community. We do have to make sure that we are telling any new family that they have to go through the My School DC lottery process to apply and to be accepted into Hope. But we are super excited that we have quite a significant number of scholars that are there. In addition to our, during the summer, we will have several family gatherings that are going to be proposed to allow families to stay connected. There will be some onboarding for our families so that they can get acclimated to the Hope community, as well as understanding and get a clear understanding of the academics and the opportunities that will happen with the STEAM program. So we have lots of things, exciting things that are happening there. And we are super excited about the potential of the enrollment growth. We have the threshold, we have the data points, we just have to convert the students. Do we have any questions regarding this information?
Yes, good evening, Tiffany. Thanks for the information.
Yes.
Does the school have a general recruitment plan that they've developed that they can share with the board?
So
or
that
any
information,
updated plans?
yeah, I was going to say we did present a plan earlier in the academic year. We have not updated the plan for a number of reasons. Part of that is, of course, you know that we now have some shifting in personnel. So we will go back and we will review our plan of action moving forward. We also, as of today, we received our the audit findings relative to My School DC as far as with our enrollment. So we are in the process of updating the plan.
And so do we have an estimate as to when that will be updated and can be provided to the board?
Sure. What I want to do, I don't want to speak advantageously. So I would want to get with Mr. Dimas as well as our marketing team, because again, we all work collaboratively and cohesively, and they are not on the call. So I don't want to give you an improper date, but I will say that we can certainly work on that by the next board meeting. That would be my thought process.
Thank you.
Thank you, Sherry, for asking that question. I just want to do, so we had how many enrolled kids this year? Where were we? 203?
203, 204. And out of that 204, based off of the audit findings, 4 of those scholars, from what I have been able to preliminarily read in that report, 4 of them did not go through the correct process to be enrolled. And so we are looking to see what is missing out of the information, and the way that it looks is that they did not actually apply through the My School DC process. And so it seems that they came directly to the school and enrolled, and all of the information was not updated into My School DC. So we just got that audit today, and we are looking at that information.
So what does that really mean? That we can't say we had 203 students because it didn't go through that process?
So no, they are still counting, according to the document, they are still counting the students. We just have to submit additional documentation for those scholars.
And how many people applied through My School DC?
For the upcoming year, it is 203. And that's in addition to, of course, your current population.
And how many re-enrollments have we had so far?
So this is stating 190, but it's actually going to be roughly about 160.
We had 30 people drop since the 8th, 10 days ago.
Well, no, this number, from what we understand, the number was not correctly entered in on here. So we know that if there are 204 scholars and we have 30 8th graders, it's like 26, 27 8th graders. We know that the 8th graders are not going to come back unless they are being retained. So that's why I said this number of 190 is an incorrect number. So I am saying that it is probably going to be roughly about 160 is going to be the current number. But we do know that there were some scholars since some incidences over the past couple of weeks that that have happened, and we have had some withdrawals at the school.
I would rather have an updated board packet than to put a number in front of me and it's not right. No,
I definitely understand that. When I saw, I wasn't, I looked at it and I was like, wait a minute, that's not totally accurate, because I know that there are 26 or 27 eighth graders. So the actual official number for year-to-date intent to return is 168. That is the correct number.
And how many of the 203 from my school DC are being converted to an enrollment for next year?
We have, I do not have that full data. Again, we are transitioning with the student enrollment coordinator. So we will be able to have that information within the next couple of days.
My school DC numbers came out end of March, and it's May. And I mean, there should be something since in between there, right? Weren't you working? I mean, should have been working with the other person who was in the role. So that, I mean, it's May.
Right. So again, we've had some personnel issues and we are working through those personnel issues. So we just want to make sure that we are giving you correct data. So I don't want to quote a number that is incorrect. So again, Mr. Tolliver, who is our new student enrollment coordinator, he, along with the school leader, Mr. Owens, are going to work to verify the information that has been submitted to our data reporting structure. So we don't want to quote incorrect information. We want to verify that information with our current families.
Okay, next time just present different data to me then.
Okay, understood.
Please, yeah, it just makes me annoyed. I'm sorry, but it does.
Understood.
Okay, so I will need the board will need an update, preferably before the next board meeting. If you can get an email, someone just letting us know where the enrollment stands.
We will do that.
Okay,
we will do that.
Right, and those 203 people who applied through my school DC, where are they now?
Will do.
The one thing I will say is it is really important to everyone on the call to understand that it's really important that we have an impact on the enrollment numbers for the next school year. We need to see more than 203. I think we were aiming for 230 something students for the next school year. I know it's still time to
Well, let me make
decisions.
Sure. Well, let me make sure that you understand. So it's 168 are currently there at the school that are returning. We have an additional 203 applications of new people who are interested. So
I understand that. What the question I was asking, how many of the 203 interested people have actually applied to the school and committed to come to next year? The answer you gave me is that you don't know the answer to that, right? Because my school numbers came at the end of March, and here we are mid-May, and we still don't know. So all I'm saying is, I know it's still time for parents to still make decisions and whatnot. When we talked about the budget, we said, I think the number we were aiming for is 230 something. The board, we want to see some type of report before the next board meeting, laying out some data points, right? How many kids we had in the school past school year when we had the October numbers, how many people have re-enrolled, how many people we've converted, and what those numbers are looking like. We need to be aiming high, and right now we are nowhere near where we need to be, and that is worrisome. So, all righty.
Can you provide an update to Carrie, an email?
Yes, I can certainly provide.
Tomorrow?
Yes, I can certainly provide that update. Again, when it comes down to enrollment, we have applications that are on file. Again, it is a matter of getting the remaining documentation, and that is that's what we need to verify, the additional documentation that scholars are submitting. So I will make sure that I get that information to you all as soon as possible.
Gather it on a spreadsheet and send it to Carrie before end of day tomorrow. Thank you.
Will do.
And a question, as we're doing outreach to those 203 potentially new families, are we tracking in any way the types of questions that they're asking about our school, the things that tend to, get some enthusiasm, just to connect it to marketing materials, the things we're focusing on the open house, just trying to get a sense of what are the things that you're seeing out there that parents and families are interested in.
Yes, great question, Allison. One of the things that I do know that increased the excitement is the new STEAM program. Of course, announcing that, hope it will be the first that is K-8. And so that brought a lot of excitement for the applicants. I do know that part.
Thank you.
And in terms of, and another data point that I'm thinking about in terms of tracking of the 203 applications, are we tracking where those applications are coming from? So are we able to identify some of the more popular sources for recruitment that we might want to maybe bolster or beef up for next year?
That is something that I can look into. Again, these are scholars that are applying through My School DC. So I am not certain if this is information that is, that is being tracked as to how did they hear about Hope. We just get, the data points of knowing this is the list of scholars that are interested. But we certainly can look at other ways, possibly look at other ways, and that would be on the marketing side to determine that information.
Or if that portal is asking that information, it'll be good to find out.
We do know where the scholars are coming from, but why they are selecting Hope, that is something that I don't believe is being tracked, but I'll look more into it.
Thank you.
Anything else around enrollment at this point? And can we have an update? Look, this is ongoing. The school we're in a bind. Let's be honest here. We need enrollment numbers up for this school to survive. I'm sorry if anyone think that's inappropriate to say, but it's the truth. We don't have scholars in the building. The extra funds going away at some point of time. That rank that we have, I don't know. There's some things that are looming over our head. Enrollment would help fix some of it.
Yes,
all of it.
absolutely.
So,
Absolutely.
It needs to be taken seriously, and, right now it doesn't really feel that way, but, all right, well, on the marketing team, we haven't heard from them. I would like, Christina, if you can make a note that some type of update will be appreciated. How did the campaign go for this last push through My School DC? And what's the plan for next year? What's the plan for the rest of the summer? All right, who's up next?
We have the CMO report and the discipline data after that.
Okay. Thank you, Ms. Walter.
You're welcome.
All right. Good afternoon, everyone. Just wanted to start off with the successes that we're noticing in the building. We have been increasing our differentiation in classrooms. So teachers are making sure that they're catering to all scholars in the building or in their classrooms. Accountable talk has increased. So you hear there's certain habits from students now. They're agreeing with their scholars, they're disagreeing with their peers, they're adding on, making sure they're able to contribute to the conversation in some way, shape, or form. And then you see a lot of students owning what's going on. So we're moving from teacher to facilitator so that students can now take ownership over their learning. But then with successes, there are also things that we need to improve on. So some of the things that we're improving on now is around independent practice. Scholars are trying to increase their stamina. So we've been having students write first and talk second, so they can kind of increase that independent work. Teachers are also working with pacing what we saw this year was that we were not moving through the lesson and the curriculum in a timely manner. So students have been increasing, teachers have been increasing their pacing. And then finally, the habits of discussion, making sure that students are using academic vocabulary, sticking to the academic conversation, and staying focused throughout their time engaging with work. We are almost done with testing. Here we have tested 96% of scholars in ELA and math. We're about to start NWEA testing, our growth, which kind of measures our growth or student growth. That is going to be from the 22nd through the 26th. So that starts next week. So we'll have another report next month on our completion for NWA, and we'll also show some data as far as how much students have grown this year so that you guys have data points before the PARCC data is released. And with that, we would like to give a huge congratulations to Mr. Moore, who is Hope Tolson Public Charter School's Teacher of the Year, and then Miss Anna Nolasco, who was selected as our Support Staff of the Year. So shout out to Mr. Moore and Miss Anna Nolasco. Super proud of them. Really appreciate them and all the hard work that they're continuously doing in the building. And we look forward to seeing if they are Teacher of the Year next year or if we have other runner-ups.
Yes. I extend my congrats to Ms. Nolasco and Mr. Moore.
Can I add to that?
Yeah.
Mr. Moore had took, first of all, I don't know, it was on the last time we had had international STEAM competition, and Mr. Moore and our scholars had took first place across all 5 categories. And then this past Saturday, we had a STEAM competition at Bowie State University, and we took first place as well.
Congratulations. Congrats. Awesome. Can we see, I mean, you know, I follow Hope on Instagram. We need to get that stuff out there.
I had sent it to the Dream Team to post it on our site. So I sent that to them earlier today. So hopefully it gets out there on the Instagram or social media.
Yep, on our website, or I don't know, can we get it played somewhere? I mean, these are things that parents look at in terms of, you know, if this is a school of choice for them as well. So congrats to Mr. Moore and the team. That's awesome news. Looking forward to seeing and hearing more good things like this as we move forward.
All right, now moving on. Well, I'm sorry, were there any other questions about the academic data?
No, I don't have any. I know it's testing season, so not right now. At least not for me.
All right, I'm going to go ahead and share my screen to go over some of the discipline data in the building.
Just one. You should be able to share.
Yes, can everybody see my screen?
Yes.
All right, perfect. So we will be moving towards collecting the data in this Excel document moving forward so that we can be very transparent with what's going on in the building. As you can see, we have grades K through 8th grade. We have been identifying the observed behaviors that we're seeing, whether that be eloping or walking out of classroom or fighting, whatever the case may be. Identifying the top 3 behaviors that we're seeing in the school building. We're also going to be identifying the number of weekly incident reports. So teachers were asked to fill out incident reports, exact descriptions of what they saw happen. There's 5 different strategies that they can use before calling for an administrator. And then once they call for the administrator, they submit the incident report with it. And then someone from our culture or administration team will come support. We've also identified the antecedent. So what occurred before the actual observed behavior happened. So we've been identifying that, identifying the student outcome, whether the student received a logical consequence, whether it was a reflection or a restart space in the outside of the classroom, lunch detention, phone call home, etc. Also identifying the suspension rate. So how many suspensions based on our incident reports are we seeing in the classroom? And then, so sorry, that should not be here. And then identifying how many reoccurring students we're seeing. So are we seeing that these are the same 4 students, 5 students, 6 students, 1 student, etc. So here, as you can see in kindergarten, we had 1 incident across the entire week. The student was not suspended. You can also see that there's a lot of excessive talking, calling out, moving around the room without permission. And then you also see some of those consequences that students received. And then it goes on from 1st grade all the way up until 8th grade. One of the beautiful things that I would like to mention is that our suspension rate has dropped tremendously. We have had no suspensions from grades K to 5. We had 1 suspension in 6th grade, 2 in 7th grade, and 1 in 8th grade. However, that still is 1/10%, 0.13%, and 0.4%. And then we're seeing that the reoccurring between 2 and 5 students in 8th grade, and a lot of it is stemming from bullying because of social media, and that being brought into the building. So Ms. Gregory, along with other teachers, have been having different support groups with scholars to make sure we're addressing some of those things that we're seeing, and we can kind of put some things in place to kind of mitigate that behavior. So moving forward, you will start to see this table here, and then we'll be updating the observed behaviors and the outcomes so that we can be very transparent so that everyone knows what's happening inside and outside of the building.
What's lack of content knowledge? I don't know, what's that?
Yes, so we have noticed that when students don't necessarily understand the content, or they have a lot of questions about the content, they tend to talk a little bit more than usual or get sidetracked. So if you have not been invested in the learning environment, or the teacher is not meeting you at that zone of proximal development, there has been a little bit of disengagement going on there.
You mean content from the classroom? You mean the classroom content?
Yes.
Yeah, okay. Any plans in next year to do some anti-bullying stuff, campaign or activities in the school?
Yes, so Ms. Gregory has actually been working on our SEL, not necessarily a curriculum, but has been putting together some slides for teachers to use during community meeting. So at the beginning of every single day from 7:50 to about 8:15, while students are eating breakfast, they'll be engaged in a SEL activity and focusing on building community, building camaraderie with their school and their peers in the classroom to make sure that students have the skills needed to work positively in the classroom and make sure that they're getting along with one another and supporting one another in the building.
Okay, maybe it's something to be, as part of what we do next year. There's only a couple of weeks left in the school year, but what, is like, we make sure we have something, a campaign, something about bullying as well.
Absolutely.
I don't think it ever goes out of style, and social media just makes things a little bit more worse, I think. So something to think about.
I definitely agree. My dissertation is also around bullying, so we're definitely going to be bringing in some additional practices next year.
Okay. I like the plug. That's okay. But I will hold you to that.
Please do. We've also had town halls. So Ms. Carter, Ms. Gregory, Ms. Evans, a couple of the other people on our culture team that we've created have held town hall meetings with grade levels and grade bands, along with Principal Owens, walking around and having conversations directly with homeroom classes. And we plan on continuing that practice for next year.
Okay. All right. Okay, well, yeah, it's nice to see this data presented differently. And I think it's something we want to see. Obviously, we don't want huge numbers of kids, behavior problems, but it'll be nice to kind of see this a little bit more consistently as well. And that way it will help us plan or decide at the school what kind of interventions or kind of bigger things we need to be thinking about as well. So, one quick question for any Mr. Owens or you, Joshua. Is there a spike at the beginning of the school year when kids come back from the summer on these type of behaviors, or not necessarily?
Yes, so we did see that after extended breaks, there are a couple of behavior concerns. And that's also why we're going to start reiterating the expectations in classroom. So after every single break, each teacher will have time to kind of re-go over those classroom expectations, give students the opportunity to talk about some of the things that they may have noticed so that we can kind of get ahead of that. So we're just taking a more proactive approach moving forward because we already know that after breaks, we do see a spike in behavior infractions.
Okay, okay. So we need to have things in plan to handle.
And we also incorporated what we call a reflection room. So we have staff that is going to work on social emotional learning with our students. If they need to take a time out or something, we just started coming back from the break, and we're going to continue on that starting next school year.
Mm-hmm.
And they have some activities, the things to work on that they're going to do, and talk about what we need to do to make sure they can be successful within the school environment. And I have to give kudos to Miss Gregory because she had came up with that idea. So we're taking it and run with it.
Okay. Okay. All right. Thank you, Mr. Owens. Thank you, Mr. Owens. Any questions about the discipline data or anything like that, anyone? Okay, academic excellence committees. Was it canceled? Was it rescheduled?
Yeah, we weren't able, it was rescheduled, so we weren't able to meet this month yet.
Okay.
The students were still in testing, if I'm not mistaken.
Yeah, okay, well, cool. So we can move that to next time. I think we've gone through most of the agenda, right? Did I miss anything, Christina?
No, everything has been discussed.
Okay, before we, I'd like to open up the floor then for public comment. Please limit the comments to the agenda items, so no more than 3 minutes. So I'll take a pause in case anyone wants to comment on anything that was discussed. No, okay. Well, quick pause. Well, let's keep it moving. I want to thank everyone for attending today. I do want to take the board into a closed session, but before I make that motion, I just want to be clear that on the enrollment data that, we want to really see some more robust communication around that. Like I said, if we can get something before the next board meeting to the board members, that would be appreciated.
Will do.
Okay, and also, sure who's on the call to get this to the marketing team. We want to see an update. We need some follow-up. Did the campaign work? How did the bus ads? Did we do bus ads? No. Did we have placards at bus day at bus? I don't know where you wait for the bus. There were signs in the neighborhood. I just want to know like what kind of feedback or what kind of impact that had. So that some type of wrap up on that would be fantastic. And also hearing what do we do in the summer to continue to convert students.
Yes.
What's the plan for the outreach? I know Mr. Tolliver, you're new, you probably have a lot to sink your teeth into. But how do we handle those people from March who were you've accepted to the school? Where do we go from here? How do we convert that? And kind of, where are we with the, let's see, you said we were at 168 or 160 or something like that. Like, where have we moved the needle? Have we moved the needle? So I'm looking for data around this, please.
Yes, ma'am.
If I could just
And
add to that, Carrie, Tiffany, I know
Mhm.
you said that you had shared, sorry, I'm in a cafe. You said that you had shared the current plan or the most current plan with the board previous package. I think I saw something for January, but just to make sure I'm looking at the right document, would you mind just re-forwarding at least the version that you sent to the board before?
Right. And that was it was a combined report that was presented by our marketing director, which was Ashley Mentor.
Yes,
And
that was
Mr.
in
Bobby
January,
Dennis. Yes,
right?
yes,
Okay,
yes,
okay.
yes. But I have already made outreach to both of them about some of the points that you all are asking for.
Mhm. Yeah, metrics, we want to see data, we want to see the metrics around how things aren't working. So,
Right.
this is,
And I would, oh,
Mhm.
sorry.
Go ahead, Sharifa, go ahead.
And I guess I understand giving, like, when I saw that, I see that as a high level presentation to the board, but to me, it's not a strategy, like an internal strategy that the school is working off of. So outside of what you're presenting to the board, the actual strategic plan that has been developed internally for either the marketing team, recruitment team, or both teams, right? Just having a more detailed strategy.
Sure. And we will need to make those adjustments. Anyway, we do have a new student enrollment coordinator who just started on Monday. So we will definitely work collaboratively to get something out to you all expeditiously.
Thank you.
Okay, and also as an action item for next meeting, which would be our last meeting before we take a break, I just need an update on the summer advantage and what does that look like as well? Like, are people enrolling? Kind of just an overview of what the program looks like for the summer. Just want like
Yes,
an
I
update
can
on
give
that.
you the enrollment numbers for that. Currently, there are 104 scholars that are officially enrolled for Summer Advantage. I know that there was funding, I believe, for about 120 scholars. So we are just about there.
Okay, I would still like an update of the next
Right.
meeting in terms
Okay.
of what are the plans for the summer? What does the
Sure.
program look like? Just an overview, especially if this is
Sure.
something that we plan to do every year.
Sure.
Because at some point I want to see like how do we improve year over year, that kind of stuff as well. So, just I'm not sure who would need to present that, but I just would like it on the next board meeting agenda. Okay, all right. Thank you, everyone. At this point, I would like to make a motion to move to closed session where we can discuss personnel, legal, and contract issues. I have a motion to move to closed session.
This is Anissa. I motion to move to closed session where we can discuss legal contract issues, I believe.
I second that motion, is Sharifa.
Okay, thank you. Thank you. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any nays or abstentions? No. And Christina, if you could move us to closed session. Thank you, everyone.
Thank you. Have a good one.
Thanks, you too. Okay, to join. Thank you, Christina. I just want to thank everyone for attending today's meeting. At this time, I would like to make a motion to adjourn our May 18th meeting. I need someone to approve the motion.
Hi, Sharifa. I move to adjourn today's meeting, May 18th.
Thank you. May I have someone to second it?
This is Anissa, second.
Thank you, Anissa. All in favor, say aye. Aye.
Aye.
And any nays or abstentions? No, this meeting is adjourned. Thank you,
Have a
everyone.
good
Have a good night.
Have a good
Bye.
night.
Have a good evening.
Bye.